Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Creating Tailwinds Podcast by Flight Path Financial with your hosts, John Urbick and Jared Adams. Join us today as we discuss the power of infinite banking. And here we go.
Well, hello, John. Greetings. Welcome. Another beautiful day.
Jared, how are you? Yes, it's a beautiful day out there today, isn't it? I should be out
Gorgeous. I
on.
love this fall weather. It's the reason I live in Georgia. Bring it on. I love it.
Absolutely right. What you
Cool,
been
cool
doing with
weather.
yourself?
Oh, goodness. We've been so crazy busy. If we're not, like I told you, chasing around kids from softball and other softball and volleyball, then we're chasing for birthday parties and, fill in the blanks. It's nonstop. It's been crazy. Somebody asked me last week, what do you do for a hobby? I said, hobby? Question mark? Are you kidding me? I don't have a hobby. I chase kids around and cart them from one thing to the next. So check back in 10 years. I'll come up with a hobby then. Well, I think we've got another great topic at hand. I know it's been a little bit since we've had our most recent podcast, but great to get back in the saddle and keep going. I'm hoping you're enjoying it as much as I am.
I am absolutely enjoying it, Jared. It's been great. I mean, we're coming off of a whirlwind tour, capped off with that wonderful interview we did with Dr. McCullough.
Yep,
What a gosh, what an insightful interchange that was, right?
sure.
Holy cow!
Yep.
So my understanding is you've got a really cool topic on tap for us today. What do you think?
Well, I kind of wanted to hit on some of the, issues or blockers or items that I may have seen here recently with working with clients or just having discussions with other practitioners about, making sure that we're really illustrating the point of IBC. Like, we're here to talk about infinite banking concepts, how it works, and I had one folks here recently that got really tripped up on they couldn't wait to see an illustration. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
that's not always the first step. Like, I understand you're a numbers person and you want to see it. Like, I'll get that. I promise I'll provide it. But they were just almost butthurt that I wanted to make sure they understood the process before I got to the product. And I think that's a really, really important emphasis point on, you know, it's really what differentiates us in the infinite banking world from just somebody else that's selling whole life insurance.
That and a lot more, but I concur 100%. I
Agreed.
just tell people the one thing about an illustration is it's guaranteed to be wrong.
Yeah.
It's either going to be higher or lower than what they illustrate, apart from the guarantees side. But without getting into all of the construct and the illustrations and what they look like, everybody needs to know those things. They need to understand what's inside of a contract. But
Right.
don't just look at some projections. They do that with IUL all the time. The pie in the sky. Oh, the S&P 500 is going to go up 10% a year, and you're going to be a millionaire in 15 years. Right.
Yep.
But the numbers are not important. It's the process, because the process is what's going to put money in your pocket.
Exactly. Exactly. Perfectly said. And not to mention of one of the companies we use to write with, they'll have 9 or 10 columns worth of numbers there. Well, only three of them are guaranteed. The other 6 or 7 are all dependent on what dividend you get. So there's a whole slew of outcomes that may or may not happen 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, 100 years from now that you can't put that on the paper and have any
You
accuracy
can't.
to it. So
You
just like you
can't.
said, it's guaranteed to be wrong. It's a great show of how it does work when you understand it. But without that baseline and without that building blocks to start from,
Right.
it's just numbers.
Well, it goes to the psychology of how people think, right? And I think this is one of the things that you wanted to talk about.
Yep.
Which I think is an excellent topic, is we are so predisposed by our environment, what we know, what we're told, what authoritative sources that have been the authority for many years, and maybe they're not so authoritative anymore. Maybe it's time to think a little bit on our own. The two things that we're given that are ours and ours alone are the time we have on this earth and our ability to think, what's
Yep.
between our ears. Those are the two most important elements to build for any financial plan that you could ever construct. And our job is in our small little part of that piece is to help people maximize their finances,
Yep.
whatever that looks like.
That's right.
And I think we do a pretty darn good job of it. I don't mean to blow our own horn, but we do a darn good job of it. And
Right.
we're a testament to that. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's perfectly said. And, I think about, it makes me think about, conspiracy theories that have happened over the last 5 years. And
sure.
I think we got to come up with some new ones because all of those folks were right.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right? Everything was, oh, that's just some whack job talking out there. I wonder what just a kook. He was
Yeah,
right on a lot
yeah,
of it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So those folks that are willing to free think and step outside the box and see something a little different, you're right. There's a lot of folks that are willing to do that.
Well, I promise I won't get deep into this, but because you brought up this topic, this is a great book for those that have nothing better to do and can't sleep at night. It's about 1,000 pages. It's Ludwig von Mises' Human Action. It is the Bible of Austrian economics, and it is great. And it's about praxology, a great big word, which basically is about how people, what motivates them to do something, what creates human action. And that's part of what we're talking about today is what motivates people to steer a course different from what they're doing right now.
Yep.
They have to have a reason to do that.
Yep.
And you and I can provide very compelling reasons for people to do that.
That's right.
And we would
That's
enjoy
right.
the conversation.
I completely agree. And I think that leads us into kind of the 5 bullets that we were talking in terms of, I stole this right from the think tank. When we talk about 5 key points that Nelson wanted everybody to know, and when I say Nelson, for anybody that's tuning in for the first time, we're talking about R. Nelson Nash, the author, the late author of Becoming Your Own Banker, a book that we'd love to make sure can get into your hands. John's got it right there. An amazing 92 pages that you won't regret. But the 5 key points, just to give you the summary and then work through it, is make sure you're thinking long range. Always, 2, 3, 4 generations, thinking long range, thinking ahead. Don't be afraid to capitalize your system. Don't steal the peas. Don't do business with banks, and rethink your thinking. Which one sticks out to you, John?
Oh gosh, I mean, they all have their place, don't they?
Yes.
But the last one you said marries in with what I just said, rethinking your thinking.
Yep.
We tend to, you know, the old axiom, the physics axiom, and I think we mentioned this before. I stumbled my way through my physics, trying to remember all that stuff from way back when. But
Yep.
a body tends to stay in motion unless it's acted upon by another force, the
Hmm.
vector force, right? So people are happy to keep trucking along, and they've got these things they call IRAs and 401ks, and they've got their Social Security, and we all talk about this as if it's the end all be all, and we're ignoring 90% of what's going to get us over the finish line.
Yep.
Social Security's in trouble. What are we going to do about that? I'm not going to rely on it. Maybe I don't have the means to do something without that, but maybe you can augment it, maybe a little bit.
That's right.
Every step we move in the direction of our own financial security is a step in the right direction and does us good. All of the qualified plans out there, we've talked about that endlessly.
Yep.
But you know what? If you need to educate your children, if you need to buy a car, if you need to repair your home on a short notice and you don't have those funds, where are those funds going to come from? Making a dollar do many jobs at the same time. That's what infinite banking does. It's a powerhouse of resources that are available to you. You're the chief executive officer of your own bank. There's
Chief
nothing more
executive
powerful.
officer of your family bank.
Exactly
And
right.
how cool to be able to set that up. If you're the one that starts that and you're the one that's changed, and set the footprint out generationally, that someone can look back 3 and 4 generations from now and say, well, it was John. He was the ripple. He was the butterfly effect. He was the pebble that dropped in the pond. That here we are now, hundreds of years later, and we're all still benefiting from the process that he put in place. Like, isn't that what we all want? It's to stick around longer than we're here.
it truly is, and you and I are trying to get the message out there. We're part of that 10% that Nelson Nash talked about.
Yep.
You get 10% of the people moving in one direction, the other 90 tend to follow, 90% follow. It truly is on your list in my book, all about how you think. We talked earlier about this guy, Roger Bannister.
Yep.
Back in May of 56, I think it was, he broke the 4 minute mile. I'm not a runner. I mean, I ran because I had to, because the coach made me. I was
Right.
not a runner.
Yep.
Had to, went kicking and screaming. But this guy, you got to respect him. Nobody up until that point ran the mile under 4 minutes.
Yep.
Well, this guy from England did. And then subsequent to that, boom, it was that target fell like, I don't know, 69 times up to through the 70s. I think I don't have the exact number, but it was a lot. Well, how in the world can we make 1,956 years, at least when they've recorded it, to that point in history when this guy was able to break it? Pretty impressive, but then it fell like that over and over and over again because it was how people thought. It wasn't possible. It's not, it's possible. They
Correct.
discovered it's possible. And we can do the
And
same thing.
they
Go
would have
ahead.
seen
Yeah.
something. No, I was going to say they would have seen something that's unattainable, that I can't
Yeah.
achieve that. I can't do that. And then one person does it and you're like, oh, that is possible.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I love people doing what is viewed as the impossible. I live my life like that. Truly, truly admire that stuff. When you got somebody who's up against the wall and they say, okay, I'm in, let's go. I love that. It
Yep.
just, it's awesome. There's another story that we talked about, and it was one of my favorite stories, and I wish I could remember the guy's name, but I'm told it's a true story. I'm going to call him Dave because I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a great athlete, good football player. He's a football player all through high school. He wasn't very big, wasn't very fast, but he worked his tail off, made the football team, and then he went on to college. And he had a very close relationship with his dad. And he made the college team barely, not because of his skill, but because of how hard he worked. And what his story was, took all the way up into the championship game, right? So he's on this college team up to the championship game, and a week prior, his father passes away.
Yep.
And so he calls the coach, says, Coach, my dad passed away. I'd like to miss practice on Monday. And then the coach says, Look, Dave, you're an awesome guy. You do nothing but give everything to us. Take Monday off. If you need it, take the whole week. As a matter of fact, if you need to be with your family, I don't even expect you to be at the games. Do
True.
what you need to do.
Yep.
And so the week goes by, game day. He shows up. He's putting on his pads. He goes out there with his team. His team are like all applauding him for everything he's been through. He's been through a lot. And late in the game, they're down by 10 points. The key player gets hurt, and he's the backup guy for that position. They said, "All right, we got to put in Dave." No, can't do it. Can't do it. We need somebody else. His teammates pushed, said, "No, he needs to go in." And so he goes in and he plays no mistakes. He did a great job. He held his own. He did fine. Toward the end of the game, they were down by 6 points. He intercepts the ball, runs for a touchdown. They win the game.
Wow.
Incredible. This is one of my favorite
Wow.
stories. Chokes me up to think about it. So this guy goes and he's in the locker room, he's sitting all by himself in the corner, and the coach comes up to him and says, what happened? Where was all that? He goes, you did all that even after your father passed away. He goes, that just shows your character. He says, you know what? Something else you didn't know about my dad? He says, what's that? Because my dad was blind. He came to every game. This was the first game he came to where he saw me play.
Wow. Hello.
Those stories are out there. They're everyday stories, everyday people doing incredible things. I mean, we're part of this whole system of people who are out there just trying to do the best they can. And that's what we do. We're out there trying to help. We're out trying to make a contribution, bring some good into the world and make people better because we were there. And I think you do an outstanding job of that. And I try to do my
Likewise.
best as well.
Likewise. Yeah, as well.
So,
No,
it's all about how
I
you
love
think.
that story.
It's
I love
all
that
about
story.
how you think.
Yep.
So anyway, that's the diversion off the railroad tracks. Those are my
Oh,
my,
I
my
love it.
stories that came to mind by all
Great
about how you
stories.
think.
I love it. Well, if we move on to maybe another one that would be don't be afraid to capitalize your system. You know,
Bingo.
we get a lot of folks who, well, what's the minimum that I have to pay to get started? If they start with that, I know they haven't read the book. I know they're not understanding. So we move right into an education piece. Again, I'm happy to talk about what that looks like, but that's not the case. Like if you are capitalizing your system, your first goal is to pay premium. From there, now you deploy your funds out through the system. So it's a process, right? You've got to get it into the system that is gaining for you with a death benefit, and then deploy the funds. So, the two ways that you can capitalize your system is, you know, pay loans. If you take a loan out, pay the loan back, recapture the interest. And then as
Yes.
you've paid that loan off, now the additional funds are going to go right back into premium or also PUAs. So
Yeah.
when you're looking at capitalizing your system, those are the two that come to mind.
Yeah, Nelson has talked about you don't grow the corpus with loans, right?
Yep.
You want to pay the loans back, but it's base and PUA. So for me, my modus operandi is I always pay base and PUA first, and then I pay loans. Reason being is because I'm growing the cash value base,
That's right.
which drives the dividend off the cash value. Loans were just returning the money, and you're 100% right, you're saving on the interest that you're otherwise paying. But it's far better to be paying the interest there because you're getting the dividend on the back end, not guaranteed, but generally speaking, that's the
That's
way
right.
it's worked for 150 years,
That's right.
rather than giving it to the bank of Main Street,
Yeah, and there's all
for
kinds of
sure.
different structures, right? Like some folks have their monthly budget set up that's how they want to pay premium is every month a certain amount's going out, and then they budget for a car payment that they're going to borrow from their policy, or you know fill in the blanks, a vacation, a house repair, whatever it might be. There's all kinds of different setups. Sometimes folks like to pay their premium annually. So they write that one check for the annual premiums, and then they work from it throughout the year. Some make a partial payment where they only pay the base, and then they catch up
Right.
with the PUAs throughout the year. So the flexibility that's built into these policies
Incredible
is
flexibility.
incredible. Like you
Yeah.
truly get to, when you're first, this is why we want to get to know the folks we're working with, and we want to, kind of try to peel the layers back a little bit to see what their goals are, what they're after, so that we can help you structure something with some goalposts. If it
Right.
goes a little left of what's expected, well, maybe it's this over here. Whereas maybe you had a big windfall, well, now you got the other right goalpost that's in the way. So, if we can build you those goalposts, let you, go back to your football analogy, have you cook it right through
Yeah.
the uprights,
Well,
and it's big wide uprights, right? It's not some little tiny, it's not some rugby uprights that are like 10 feet apart. We're talking like a whole football field worth of uprights.
well, I was thinking about your point on that person who asked how little they could put in. I have two questions for people who say that to me. Says, well, how poor do you want to be, and how few choices would you like? Would you
That's right.
like to have would you like to have a lot of choices and be in total control and have access to capital that you can make wonderful decisions down the road with, or would you like to have the minimum? We can set up the minimum, but I think you know a little bit about me and my energy level when it comes to the possible.
Oh yeah.
A lot more is possible than we think is possible.
Yep.
And you and I have seen this with clients. There is so much waste and drain. You spend 30 minutes with somebody in their budget. You go, holy cow, we can help you a lot if you want. But
Sure.
it's got to come from them. It can't come from us.
That's
We
right.
can show you the roadmap.
Sure.
Jared and I can show you how to do this stuff, and we can make your policies sing for you. But we're not you. It's got to come from you. You've got to be
Well
the
said.
motivation behind your own financial success. We
Yep.
can help you be very financially successful. But at the end of the day, it comes from you.
That's right. As a good
So
friend would say, that's on you, Buckaroo. Well, that leads right into, when we're talking to clients, I know, you have your methodology, and I'm kind of, still building my own. But one of the first things that I ask is, have you read the book? And if they say yes,
always.
I say, typically within the first couple questions that follow after that, I'll ask, what does it mean to not steal the peas? Tell me in your own words what it means, not Nelson's words, not my words. So you're getting a little bit of, I'm already giving you the answers to the test here. So if you've listened to the podcast and then reached out to us afterwards, I'm already giving you the answers to the test. But the main answer that I try to work towards, or one of the big ones, is don't steal the peas means be an honest banker. You know,
Right.
you're setting up your family bank. There is no room for there's room for mistakes. There's not room for debauchery. You can't just full take off with 100% loan just to buy some car that you probably never needed to begin with. And now you're like, oh, I thought I was supposed to get rich buying all these cars. Like that's what everybody said, right? No, that's not how this works. You know, you have to be an honest banker. The money that you're using or deploying from your policy is money you would have gone to a normal bank for.
Right.
So if it doesn't meet that criteria, there's other human elements that we can talk about, right? In terms of spending and how it increases as the budget increases. But we're talking big picture of what don't steal the peas means, which is be an honest banker.
You kind of something you said resonated with me. We all have mentors in our life. We all have things we
Yep.
remember from people that meant a lot to us, and I've got a whole bunch from my dad. And one of the things he always told me was, "Don't tell me how to get into the deal. Tell me how to get out of the deal."
Mm,
Because we can talk pie in the sky, and that's what unfortunately there's so many salesmen and sales ladies out there who are selling a commission. We're not doing that. Jared and I are we're teaching this stuff. Do we get paid? Sure, we get paid, but we are not going to get paid and feel badly because we were paid because we made you a lot better off than you were before you came to us.
yeah.
That's our target.
Or I didn't wake
Whereas,
up today with the goal of losing money. Right.
exactly,
Right.
yeah.
So we all work for, we get paid for our time and for our efforts that everybody does.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. Absolutely. But what you will find is you will find that money well spent because when you go and my policies come in, and to my wife, hers, I think it came in at like dividend was like 8%. Holy smokes. That is not guaranteed. But try doing that anywhere else without any real risk. There's risk in life. Walking out the door is risk. But the highest hanging fruit available is that within the insurance complex. That's where people with a lot of money put their money, and that's what we do. And when you participate in these companies with us, we all become owners in these companies because they are mutual companies.
That's right.
And you are hiring a legion of lawyers, a legion of CPAs, a legion of actuaries, a legion of compliance people. Everybody that you could think of that you would want on your team is there. They come with the package. You don't get that with the brokerage account. You don't get that with the bank. Even if you've got a great financial advisor, and I love financial advisors,
Yes.
wonderful,
Yep.
not disparaging them at all.
Agreed. 100%.
And you should have them, that you should utilize their resources. We are just one part of the puzzle. Jared and I are about cash flow. We're about having access to the capital, your money. And then if you want to deploy it in these places that a financial advisor tells you, or where you have a friend in real estate who's doing well, wonderful. But we're going to give you the tools to do that most efficiently.
To build your warehouse of wealth. You earned it.
Exactly.
You earned it and manage it. Make sure, and again, that's what you were saying earlier, where it's on you. Like we're love to talk about what this looks like to cycle, the funds and the capital through a policy that you still have access to, a cash value while it's growing and while it's providing a death benefit. The way that goes to ride both sides of the fence is pretty amazing. And
It
but
is.
at the end of the day, it's still on you. You've got to manage what that looks like, and that's where that education sits in. So we're certainly, I couldn't agree with you more. We're there to help someone understand what's being built for them, and then be a mentor along the way on how to use it properly.
Kind of reminds me, this is a side joke, but John Panette, great big heavy comedian, passed away. Oh, one of my favorite
He's the one
comedians.
that's always yelling, right?
No, that I think you might be thinking of Sam Kinison. He's a little on the edge.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that
But
is
no,
innocent.
John Panette was he was not filthy in any way. He was just funny. He's a big heavy guy, and he talked about going to the gym. And he got a coach so he could so he could look better, feel better. And the coach in the gym said, "Okay, we're gonna go pull-ups and we're gonna do push-ups." And he's listed a policy. He goes, "I don't do ups. I do downs. I lay down. I boogie down. I double down in blackjack." Because I don't do ups. So the point that's so funny about this is you got to put in the sweat. You got to put in the energy to make your financial plan work.
That's right.
You can't dump it off on somebody else. Otherwise, you might as well go to Vegas and throw the dice and hope you hit it, you know?
I mean,
This isn't that.
that comes back to the first one of rethink your thinking. Like you've got to continually be
Yes.
a student.
Yes.
You've got to be a student of
Dude.
Austrian economics, a student of infinite banking concepts, a student of how your whole life policy works for you. And when
Right.
you know and truly understand the tool that you've created, you have an amazing power at your fingertips. And from there, you just get to deploy it in the infinite ways that you see fit.
But even if you don't understand all the ins and outs of it,
Yep.
having it in place, having IBC practitioner like Jared or myself guiding you through this stuff, setting it up, you're going to have a high quality product to work with.
Or
And
any of
so
the
that,
hundreds of practitioners that are out there, all well
sure, of
trained.
course.
That's right.
Yep, 300 and some odd IBC, infinite banking practitioners authorized by the Nelson Nash Institute.
That's
They're
right.
all across the United States and Canada. You
Yep.
can go to the practitioners page on infinitebanking.org, find your state. If you don't want to do business with Jared and I, we would love your business, but there we could do business, by
Good
the way, in every
people
state in the
everywhere.
union.
That's right. Yep.
Absolutely right. Nothing but good things to say about that group.
That's right.
That's why we're a part of them. Otherwise, we wouldn't be.
Amen to
It's a
that.
true statement.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Well, then last but not least is don't do business with banks.
that's right.
So, we've talked about this in multiple other episodes and in different ways. We broke it down as, you know, where the funds go, how they can create the money out of thin air, how they're truly set up to continually win. Now, that doesn't mean you won't have a checking or a savings or some form of,
Mm.
debit card transactional stuff. Those are still needed. But when we talk about where you store your money, that's one of the big ideas here is you're creating your own warehouse. You're creating your family bank. So as you do that, you'll do less and less business with banks.
Right. What's funny, Jared, I have a client. He and his wife have contracts, and he had some extra money that he wanted to deploy. It wasn't much; it was a couple $100 a month. And I thought, well, all right, let's see if we can just find a high yield account for him to put this money in the interim while he's sorting through all this out. And
Sure.
one of the local banks here, I called him up, and they're paying 0.1%. Not so great. All right, you can do better than that. And then I said, let's take a look at the CD. We can go out to the CD and we can look a little bit further. And that CD was only paying about 3.5%. But you can't touch the money. If you take the money, you lose all the interest that you got on the money. And it's taxable, by the way, if
Yep.
when you take that interest. There's just not a great place to do it. And you can't add to that every month. That's an additive CD. It's an add-on CD. Only certain banks have them. Many do not.
Right.
Whereas the products that we use, you can set this up and you could do it on your own terms. You could put in $200 in January. You could put $400 in on February. You could put $100 in March, and then on down the line in varying amounts. You want to structure it according to your cash flow, of course, but the point is you have tremendous flexibility in your personal cash flow modeling and your business. If you
Right.
got a business out there, oh my gosh, I talk to people about their businesses and they've got lines of credit of a couple $100,000 and they're moving back and forth. I said, when you got this money sitting there, when you're putting your cash in there that's available for you in another account and you're getting 0.1 nothing percent for it, do you realize if you put that into an IBC contract, you could do the same thing, except now you're taking advantage of the dividend and you got the death benefit and you got the other long-term care benefits that are embedded into this thing. It's unbelievably better than that structure.
The other one that's huge on business side of things is a lot of folks don't want to drop 10, 20, $30,000 for a premium to protect the equipment that they own. So a lot of them
Right.
are financing premiums. I would really encourage you if you're doing that to take a look at the rate that the insurance company is charging you. They are north of 12, 14, and 16% for financed premiums for a business. Now, a lot of folks just roll that into the cost of doing business. But what if you didn't have to do that? there's a lot of other ways around that. So, there's all kinds of different things that these can be set up in ways that truly help your family bank.
Got a question for you, Jared. How many cars in your life have you totaled?
Cars, does a motorcycle count?
No,
Zero.
zero.
Yep.
Um, I have zero as well. You
Yep.
look back on our property and casualty accounts, all the money that we paid for to protect those assets, right? The collision and the comprehensive, they're both sides of the ledger. One's for the
Comprehensive. You
people you
mean that
hit.
one that covers the loan? That they won't let me have a loan unless I put comprehensive on it? That one?
E- Exactly, exactly,
Okay,
because it
got it.
covers them.
That's right.
What if instead you self-financed? I started doing
True.
this a while ago.
Yep.
So what if you put that money into an IBC account, IBC structured life insurance contract,
Yep.
and that became your emergency source if something happened to that vehicle that you could cover it?
I
Hmm.
love it. I think
I would have enough to buy all the cars that I've owned three times over
yep,
with all of the premium that I paid to
that's right.
property and casualty companies.
I
Because you're not
think
only
you
paying for yourself, you're paying for all those people who are nefarious out there and are doing all those wrong things, and
that's right.
and the costs get passed on to who?
That's
The
right.
people
You
that are
and
paying
I.
the bills.
That's right.
Exactly right.
Well, I think
So
you just launched off our next episode of how to self-finance your insurance. Because we
exactly
could go
right.
on for that for a little while. So I think
Sure could.
tune in next time.
Just-
I think that'll be
Okay.
a great episode.
I think that's a perfect idea and a perfect transition.
Love it. Well, awesome. So, to cap this off, we would say remember to, constantly be a student of anything.
Right.
And one of the things that we'd encourage you to dive in and learn a little bit more on is the infinite banking concepts. Take a look at the book by R. Nelson Nash, Becoming Your Own Banker, and then give us a call. We'd love to chat with you.
And you can get that book, by the way, if you don't know. So where am I going to get this book? If you go to flightpathfinancial.com, there's a resources tab. You click on that drop down, and the book is available right there. We don't make any money on that. It's
That's
just
right.
it's a mechanism to get the book to you. You
That's
can
right.
get it on audio if you need, or if you come and knock on Jared's door or my door, we each have a
We
stack of
got a
these
stack
books as
for you.
well. In Spanish now, and
That's
it's
right.
just been rewritten. It's Banco to something else. I don't know. That was just redone recently.
That's
And I
right.
think it's coming in Chinese too. I can't speak Chinese, but it's coming in Mandarin.
Likewise. That's
So pretty
awesome.
cool. All
Good
right,
deal.
Jared. Well, look, awesome seeing you. Thanks for taking the time
Thank
today.
you.
Always a treat talking with you.
Enjoyed it.
So
Have a great rest of
we'll
your day. We'll
sign
talk
off
soon.
and all right. Take care, Jared.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. We'd like to thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Creating Tailwinds podcast with your hosts, John and Jared. As always, we welcome your questions and critiques. You can reach us through the Contact Us tab at flightpathfinancial.com. Remember, it's all about how you think. As Nelson Nash has said about infinite banking, give it your close attention, and it can make a radical improvement in your financial future.